Welcome to Dylan After Dark. I'm going to be reviewing Mario Azzopardi's 1980 film Deadline tonight, and it's a bit of a doozy to say the least. It's a film with a long list of problems, and it felt like a chore to finish it. So many scenes have no purpose, and the relation to the film is tenuous at best. So I watched this with a friend of mine, and if it wasn't for her company, I think we both would have shut it off by the 30-minute mark. But enough about that. What's it about? Other than the fact that it's a cautionary tale that nothing ever good comes out of Canada. Deadline follows Stephen Lessey, a decently successful horror author who has found work adapting his novels into screenplays and scripts. He's harassed by his cold, unsatisfied wife who rejects his work despite enjoying the spoils of his success, his 3 obnoxious, horrible children, and his bipolar agent who changes his opinion on his work more frequently than I change my socks. Stephen's work is decried by students at an award ceremony who liken it to trash that doesn't reflect contemporary societal values, and more so, it's mocked and insulted by the lead actress who's performing in this latest adaptation. His manager is writing him for new content and flopping between loving the new pages he presents, and then immediately he's dismissive of him when he's still working on new content. Now this should put the audience in his corner. He's catching shit left, right, and center, but you're just unable to feel anything for Stephen because he's just an angrier version of his wife. He's a terrible character. He not so secretly hates his wife. He berates his children and he's absent from their lives. He locks himself in his room to work on his novels and he's not around. So you don't really feel bad for this character. It's actually difficult to feel bad for any of the characters on screen. And to sum up Deadline, as my friend so accurately described it, it's a picture of an angry marriage interspersed with vignettes from Tales from the Crypt. One of the larger issues I have with the film is how it will randomly cut to filmed versions of Stephen's novels. The first time we see this is within the first 5 minutes of the film when he's sitting down to breakfast with his family as it inexplicably cuts to a woman in the shower, then back to the family. Sure, it might as well be established early on that there will be nudity in this movie, but it goes right back to the family. Then it jumps back to the woman in the shower, and the drain starts to gush blood and she just quickly drowns in it. It's a design choice, sure. It's not a good one. And until I realized that this was an excerpt from one of his novels, I thought the woman in the shower was his eldest daughter, and the excuse for nudity was just to keep the men in the audience entertained and awake. Now, it worked because I watched the entire thing, but a fool be I because I could have just Googled boobies and saved myself 90 minutes of a shit movie that builds to absolutely nothing. There's no satisfying climax, there's no triumphant character arc, there's no lessons learned, no knowledge gained. It's an empty film and it doesn't do anything worthwhile. While the film is jumping to random moments of violence between scenes of a marriage, characters just speak to pad the runtime. There's a moment in the film where 2 characters are about to board a private plane, and the producer has a conversation with an attendant over a quote from a Bette Davis movie, and it serves no purpose. They just go back and forth over what the correct line of dialogue was. And there's numerous moments in the film that do this, which have no bearing on the plot or pacing whatsoever, and they should have just been removed entirely. It serves no purpose. Get rid of it. But eventually something does happen in the film. Now, at this point in the film, Stephen's 3 children get a hold of his work and read about a person being hanged, and they attempt to recreate that in their basement. Naturally, it goes awry, and their daughter dies in a noose. Now, you'd think this is the moment where there's the character arc for Stephen. He realizes that he's doing something wrong in his life, something must click, and he becomes the father he should have been a long time ago. Perhaps he starts reflecting on how he's been neglecting his wife and his children, and, perhaps his novels could be causing harm to society by giving impressionable youths these terrible ideas, despite the fact that this is the only death so far in the film that happens in reality. But that's right, keen viewer. He actually doubles down on his anger and just throttles his 2 sons and proceeds to go back to work. So, as you do.
Why this, Philip? What have I ever done to you, bastard?
Stephen, no!
Why did you do this to me? Why? Why?
Stephen, stop it!
Why? Why? Why?
I hate you, Daddy! I hate you!
At this point in the film, Steven's wife leaves him, his remaining children are taken away by his mother-in-law, and his boss offers him 2 weeks vacation anywhere in the world just as long as he can finish the script by the end of it. Instead, Steven does the only sensible thing a grieving father can do. He brings several strippers back to his place for booze and coke until they have a frenzy and destroy the house after he attacks them. Steven puts on a scene from one of his movies for the women, but suddenly he sees his daughter in a noose on screen and it just snaps his mind. He throws out the women, not before destroying the living room of course, and he goes upstairs to write a final ending before producing a pistol from the drawer and, like Sylvia Plath, collapses under the weight of his own mediocrity. And that was Deadline. It's a boring and anticlimactic film with an empty ending that builds to nothing significant. It doesn't say anything interesting, just 2 people die, and the only horror in the film are the vignettes, and they aren't even real or taking place in the same reality, so if you ask me, nothing happened. None of it happened. It could have all just been a dream or a simulation. It was a waste of time. Now, it's hard to attach yourself to any characters, as even the children are total assholes.
Leave me alone! Leave me alone! Stop it! It's my bike and I want to play with it!
I am trying to work!
Motherfucker.
There's no meaning hidden in the film that could warrant an analysis or a breakdown. It's a nothing movie. It's just nothing. Now, what they could have done would be the blending of reality, something like Beyond Dream's Door. Maybe odd murders or coincidences are happening around Steven and he's slowly losing his grip on reality and he can't tell what's real or not. Maybe he's confusing his fiction for reality and vice versa. You know, you could glean a little bit. Too much of anything is bad for you, kind of like the students in the opening were saying. But the film never tries hard enough to be anything worth remembering, so I will do just that, and I will forget about it.